What's up, Marsh Pod? Thanks for tuning in. I'm recording this here. It is late afternoon, November 2nd. We've had a handful of recruiting stuff come in, and I said this on Tuesday, I want to give that a little bit of time to breathe before we discuss that in full. I think it'll give us a little bit more chance to really see everything that's come together, truthfully. A lot of moving pieces. Guys, as we've talked about before, that have been on teams, could be changing teams. All of it is very unique, and certainly come March, this is going to be, the next couple months are going to be what decides what happens in March, April, May, June. But as we let that breathe, there was one thing an idea, let's call it an idea. So, a couple weeks ago, Overtime Elite hosted their second annual scouting showcase. And for those of you unfamiliar with Overtime Elite, basically the way it operates is the organization, which is based in Atlanta, has 3 teams that they split up all of the players that attend Overtime Elite. Some of those players do not sign contracts with Overtime Elite, which grants them the ability to still be eligible for amateur athletics, so college basketball. Some of them do sign contracts, and they make hundreds of thousands of dollars, but also, all of them are eligible for NIL deals. So those guys that don't make the financial commitment to protect their amateurism are still able to make money being NIL funded. But the purpose of Overtime Elite was to basically create a secondary pathway for these players, in many ways as a rival to G League Ignite, but also kind of as a standalone thing. And then actually earlier today there was an announcement about a TV deal. So these players are getting the exposure that kind of you need to be able to get that name recognition that we've seen so popular with Victor Wembanyama. But the thought that came to my mind was, why doesn't SimWorld look down that path? Because SimWorld, let's be honest, is not vastly different than Overtime Elite. The way Overtime Elite works is they bring in kids that are 16, 17, 18 years old. They are basically in an environment that is 100% dedicated to making them better at basketball. Now, you can make the case that their academics are important. They absolutely are. You can make the case that they should be going, these students, these kids go to high school so that they are still having chances to foster their game, that despite being at a prep high school, it's still really a basketball factory. Overtime Elite has basically said that's not what we care about. We are going to be a legitimate basketball factory, and that's what these kids are going to focus on. It's a limited number of people. It's not as if anybody can just sign up to go to Overtime Elite. You have to be among the best players, but with Overtime Elite, it's basically like getting a jump start on your professional career. You could make the argument it's akin to a 16-year-old genius going and taking college classes early. He's going to get a jump start on his peers in terms of making his way into the professional realm. It's really very similar to what the Overtime Elite is doing. So with SimWorld, which only of course has players at 16 and 17, and we saw Mikey Williams had to withdraw, he's deemed ineligible because of his age from SimWorld Hoops, there exists an opportunity for SimWorld to follow a very similar pathway, in which you don't just say, okay, you're here for 2 years, you're here for a year, and then you go to college or you go to G League and you feed these programs. Instead, make SimWorld Hoops its own high school feeder program. Now, certainly you're going to need some infrastructure behind that. You need funding behind that so you can offer players pathways. But if a player plays for 2 years under one coach, let's use Tim Bilardi as an example, widely considered the best coach in the league at this moment. Certainly there's others. Myron Murray has a case for that one as well. It's not just those two, but let's take Tim Bilardi as an example. If he were to be in a position where he continues to take players from average recruits into elite recruits, why wouldn't a player say, hey, why don't I just stay here for a third year? Why do I need to go get different coaching at Duke, at UNC, at Kentucky, or at the G League level? Why can't I just stay right here, continue to improve as a basketball player, continue to be in an environment that allows me to foster, that allows me to succeed, and then move on to the next level? Why do I need to go somewhere else for 6 months, really, if you think about it, just to do what I've been doing? I think it's something that should be explored. Now, should it be explored in the immediate future? I don't think it's a 2 years thing. Like I said, you need infrastructure in the back end that allows this to be profitable and allows it to be reliable and worthwhile for the player. But if such a point exists, to me it seems like an obvious move for SimWorld Hoops. Take the players, keep them in your ecosystem, grow them for another year, and continue to establish a brand. When Overtime Elite came out, I don't think there's many people that would have considered them to be the end-all be-all. Few people would have said, hey, that's a team, or that's an organization, or that's a group that's going to take players and put them into the top 5 in the NBA draft. Well, one of the two twins, Amen Thompson, is considered the third best recruit in the upcoming draft, behind Wembanyama and behind Scoot. He has a twin brother, Osser, who I believe is projected to go right now in the lottery. They have proven that they can take a player who's high level, maintain that level, and even push him higher. If SimWorld Hoops has, let's say, CKC, Maryland born and raised. If you say, hey, you can go to Maryland for what everyone will assume to be 1 year, you can play for the Terrapins, you can get the quote-unquote college experience for all of 3 months, and then you're going to prepare for the NBA draft anyway. Why not just stay in our system? At the very least, Cooper Kingy-Cross has the potential to be a guy that plays in Europe. And that's what a lot of the guys at Overtime Elite are. They are guys that are capable of playing basketball in some capacity at the professional level, whether that's NBA or whether that's overseas. CKC is not different than that. Jameson Johnson is not different than that. So why should they then change ecosystems, change environments, and potentially hurt their stocks because they go to a location that's not beneficial for them when they've already established for 2 years they're in an area that is? Again, is this going to happen in the next 6 months? No. Is it going to happen in the next year and a half? Probably not. But is it something that might be beneficial for all parties involved? The league, the organizations, and the teams, and the players? Absolutely. All right, we'll be back next Tuesday. We'll be looking into all of the recruiting news that's been going down, some of the big notable signings, and we're still about 4 months away from the start of the season, but it's starting to take shape. This first couple weeks are really going to be what drives a lot of that. All right, thanks for tuning in.